everyone. I am Himangi and you are watching the Indian Lawyer Legal Tips. Today we have a very interesting discussion lined up for you. But first of all, I would like to introduce our guest for today. We have with us Mrs. Sushila Ram Varma, advocate and chief consultant at the Indian Lawyer and Allied Services. Ma'am, today the topic that we have is a very interesting one. And I'm sure most of you who are watching would have heard the term Memorandum of Understanding or MoUs. So, we often hear this term in context with international organizations, or, ma'am, even we've heard that two nations have come into or entered into a Memorandum of Understanding. So, I would like to know from you today what exactly is a Memorandum of Understanding?
Thank you, Himangi. You're right. This is a very important topic in the business and commercial world. More so because today's business is all about rapid decisions. Now, what ideally happens is the business heads of, say, two companies or two conglomerates meet, and then they decide that they are going to go ahead with 2-3 specific ideas. Now, what do they do to crystallize this particular thought process? They quickly enter into an MOU, which is an informal way of entering into an agreement and has to be followed by a proper contract. Now, like you said, it's not just the business world, it's also in the political world. Very often, heads of nations meet at different conventions and meetings and summits. At that point of time also, they enter into some agreements with each other. Now, before getting into the nitty-gritties of a bilateral treaty, they have to record it somewhere because it takes time to actually draft a bilateral treaty. And it is at this point of time that an MOU is signed. Now, coming to your question on what is an MOU. An MOU is an agreement which outlines, I'm repeating, which outlines the broad-based idea or structure of the contract. It does not go into specifics. It is only dealing with the intention of the parties at a macro level. In most cases, these MOUs are non-binding, and more so when they have a clause written at the end of the contract which says this MOU is of a non-binding nature. Can we move on to the next question?
Sure, ma'am. So now that we have a basic understanding of what MOU is, what would you say are the benefits of a Memorandum of Understanding?
Yes. Now, like I have already said in my earlier question, most of the MOUs are entered by the top guys. So there is obviously a need or a recognition to enter into a very sketchy contract. Now, this sketchy contract is what can be crystallized subsequently into a proper contract. So I would say the benefits of entering into an MOU is you and the other party are bound because you know that you have entered into a memorandum of understanding and agreed that you will be doing certain things. Of course, in many cases it's non-binding, but many courts have recognized that MOUs can also be binding, which includes our Supreme Court of India.
So now that we have a basic idea of what MOU is and now we know about the benefits as well, ma'am, what would you say makes a legally binding contract as per the Indian laws?
Now, under the Indian laws, there is the Indian Contract Act 1872, which sets down the, I would say, the guidelines, or not even the guidelines, which sets out the conditions precedent for entering into a formal contract. So this would be things like parties have to be in agreement, that is, parties are ad idem. They have to have a specific purpose. They have to have a named consideration. And similarly, there are 2, 3 other types of terms, such as they have to be major, and the intention has to be a legal intention which they are planning to do. So your question was, what are legally binding contracts in India? So legally binding contracts are all those contracts that are in keeping with the Indian Contract Act as per the sections that are mentioned below.
So, ma'am, how would you say can MOUs be enforced in India?
Well, see, by and large, if it's a non-monetary relief, you can go to the court under the Specific Relief Act. You could also possibly plead under the principle of promissory estoppel. That is, you have promised something, I have acted upon that promise, and now you can't go back. But ultimately, please remember that to become enforceable, it is a court that has the discretion to decide whether it is enforceable or not. Now, Indian courts, especially the Supreme Court, there are some judgments which say that MOUs are non-binding and do not have and cannot be enforceable. But yet again, the Supreme Court in some other judgment says if there is a monetary consideration mentioned in the MOU, then that MOU is enforceable.
So, ma'am, now that you've mentioned Supreme Court judgments, so looking at all the judgments, what would you say are the practical implications of these judgments on the MOUs that are being drafted today?
Well, I would say the first thing is there has to be a very clear intention between the parties that they're entering into a memorandum of understanding. Then it also has to have the objective purpose that yes, we are entering into a legal relationship. And probably the most important aspect is the clarity and the rationale behind entering into the MOU. That is, the term should set out why you are entering into the MOU and what are the broad based terms on which you will be agreeing to work with each other.
Right. I think, ma'am, we have covered the basics of MOU today in the discussion, but any concluding remarks that you would like to give today?
Yes. People are taking MOUs very lightly. Very often I hear clients coming to me and saying, oh, it's okay, ma'am, we have a right, we entered into an MOU. But when I look at the document, I wonder what they have really got into, because it's not clear, it does not give them their rights, it does not have any specifics. So while MOUs are made when businessmen are on the move, it's not a very smart idea to just sign on any document and say, we have got a deal. If you want a deal, make sure that an MOU is properly drafted by a lawyer so that tomorrow, if things go wrong, you should have something to fall back on. And please also remember that most MOUs are signed between big businessmen. So if the deal is big, you should always ensure that you are protected by a legal and well drafted binding document.
Thank you for watching today's session. I hope it was as informative for you as it was for me. And if you liked this video, please like, share, and subscribe to the Indian Lawyer Legal Tips. And thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching, and if you want to be notified, please click on the bell icon. A small word of caution: please do not consider this video as legal advice. It's just a preliminary tip given by lawyers. If you need to take any action or you need to get into an MOU, visit us and we will help you to draft the right document. Thank you and namaste.